What's going on, everybody? I hope all is well. Jeff Randall here, and last week we talked about 5 skills that all great groove drummers have: technique, independence, time, feel, and taste. And I told you guys that going into 2021, we're going to be unpacking these skills in a variety of different ways so we can all level up our groove playing and bring more soul into the drumming community. So we're going to dive in today, and I thought the best way to kick things off would be to just give you guys 3 tips that you can put into practice right away. And I mean today, that will get you going in the right direction. So let's do this. Tip number 1, you gotta play a definitive beat. Every beat has its own life, its own vibe, and there's this hypnotic effect that occurs when you have the control and the self-discipline to simply choose a groove and stick with it. And this is actually a lot harder than you might think. It takes a good amount of independence to stay loose and stay in the pocket while just repeating the same beat. But you'll see that when you do, all the little nuances inside of the groove start to come together in a way that creates this distinctive lope that draws the listener in. And this isn't to say that you shouldn't improvise and add things to your grooves, but it is to say that anything you do add must complement the feel that you set up. Alright, tip number 2, you want to use smooth motions as you play. Think about the gears inside of a watch. Each one is turning at a different rate, but they're all moving in harmony with each other. And if any one gear is off, then the entire watch won't tell accurate time. The same thing can be said for each of our limbs as we play a groove. Each hand and foot is playing a different pattern that requires its own unique movement. And if any one of our limbs isn't using smooth and consistent motions, then the entire groove will suffer. One other aspect of playing with smooth motions that I just want to throw out there is actually moving with your grooves. I've heard it said from a ton of my favorite groove drummers that if you're playing really stiff and you're not able to rock back and forth and move with your grooves, then no one else is going to want to move and dance to your grooves either. Alright guys, tip number 3, you gotta give your grooves dynamic depth, meaning that you don't want to play your kick, snare, and cymbals at the same volume level. That's gonna make your grooves feel really flat. Instead, back off the cymbals a good bit so your kick and snare come forward in the mix. This will instantly make your grooves punchier because your cymbals won't be covering everything up. You can also add dynamic depth between each limb as well. For instance, on the snare drum, try making a big distinction between your backbeats on 2 and 4 and the ghost notes underneath. And on the hi-hats, try playing the edge of the cymbals with the shoulder of your stick on the downbeats and the top of the cymbals with the tip of your stick on the offbeats. And you can do that pretty easily by using a whipping stroke technique in your arm. This technique will give the hats a nice lope that wouldn't be there if you just played even eighth notes. Each of these subtle changes will give more dynamic depth, and they'll make your grooves sound more interesting and feel a lot better. Alright you guys, that's gonna do it. Stay tuned for next week where we're gonna put these tips into practice and apply them to some must-know grooves. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. I will see you next time. You take it easy. Bye-bye.